if we're not walking in those things, then when life storms hit, then man, you are thrown for a loop and you've got nothing to go, oh, well, that's okay because God's already put this in place, or that's okay. I know that this feels really wild and out of control, but I know that there's a God that I can trust. I know that there's a truth that I can stand on. I'm okay. I'm not comfortable. I'm not having fun, but I'm okay.
Well, hello again, and welcome to the Trim the Wick podcast. I'm Dan.
And I'm Becky.
And we are with you with a special edition of the Trim the Wick podcast.
Is that what we're calling it?
Yeah, that's what we call it. This is the no power recovering from Hurricane Milton edition.
But wait, if you have no power, how are you recording a podcast?
Because of lithium batteries.
There you go.
Yeah, we're sitting here. We weathered the storm that came through a couple days ago, but we are without power. But you know what? That's not going to stop us.
No, it's not.
No, just because there's no electricity, we thought we'd just have a special edition, Milton edition.
Because the microphones have it.
Yeah, it's still recording. I can still see it recording, but it's not on this, which means my computer's going to crash here in just a second.
Okay, so welcome to the special part of the special edition, is that we've had a lot of things like that in the past 48 hours since Milton showed up on our shores, is that, you know, you kind of get started doing something, you're like, I think we're going to be able to do it this way, and then, oh, nope, it's not working anymore.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of those kind of things.
Yeah, and that's one of the things with when you go through these storms, it's there's a lot of unofficial things that happen. You know, you prepare for certain stuff and you put everything together, but then, you know, all of a sudden you realize it was something you missed. Or
the resource itself has just kind of run out, like that with your computer. I mean, we've had them on chargers and we've had backup battery and but eventually those things run out.
Yeah. You know, we were talking about how, you know, the importance things of preparing and having that stuff set aside.
Right.
And we were looking at, you know, prime example, our refrigerator. Mm-hmm. And we did something this year that we haven't done in storm past, is we bought little waters, not so much for this, but we were like, okay.
We just had them in the house. They've been here for a few weeks.
Yeah. So what we did is we put the little waters in the freezer.
Right.
And froze the little water. So we had all these little
8-ounce water bottles.
Yeah, little ice bombs, I guess we would call them. And so when the power went out, we put those in the refrigerator, and it just helps keep the refrigerator colder longer because there's now these little ice things. And the thing is, when they melt, they're just bottles of water.
Yep.
So they don't go everywhere. So they don't make a big mess, like just putting like a big bag of ice in your refrigerator. So, but little things like that, and being able to have a peace of mind.
Right.
That you're preparing stuff. You know, I know every year we live in Florida, everyone. So every year we know hurricanes are going to happen. We know even if we don't get a hurricane, we're going to get some thunderstorms. We're going to lose power for a couple hours or
longer.
Like in this situation. Yeah, exactly. A couple days. So you just roll with it, but you need to be prepared.
Right. So there are some things, because we know where we live every single year at the beginning of hurricane season in June, there are just certain things that we make sure we have.
Right.
There is always a rotating stock of canned goods. There is always a rotating stock of water. There's always a rotating stock of paper goods, because y'all, paper towel and toilet paper are a thing.
Yes.
You know, there's always paper plates, disposable utensils, because nobody wants to wash dishes if you're out of power. And sometimes we lose water as well as power. So you don't want to have to be doing dishes. Just simple things like that it has just become part of the lifestyle of living in Florida, that you live in preparation for certain things to happen.
I like to think about as in, you know, preparing and just being able to make sure that simple things, if you prepare, make difficult times easier.
Right.
We're not scrambling around looking for this and that. You know, we knew where stuff was. We have stuff.
Yeah, there's always candles. There's always battery powered lighting sources. We have those. We know that the likelihood of needing them exists. And so you're prepared. And then it's not a stressor.
Right. Well, and that's one of the things I'm thinking of is that storms are already a stressor. Mm-hmm. And this one, we're going to talk about that in a second, but this one was a little bit of a stressor. And we're going to talk about how
this was a good one.
How that, on our scale, we've been through, I don't know how many storms between Texas and here, but this one was one that was
a doozy.
Yeah, this was one that we knew was going to cause some damage and stuff. But having those little things, and I think translating this into life also, little things that you prepare in advance, little things that you make sure you set aside, boy, it brings the stress down.
The physical is always a manifestation of the spiritual, right? So it's true in our spiritual lives. And it goes all the way to the name of this podcast, Trim the Wick, right? That if we're not living in a state of spiritual preparation, in being in the Word, in being in prayer, in being in relationship with God, in making sure that we cultivate the discipline of listening to and having relationship through the Holy Spirit, if we're not walking in those things, then when life storms hit, then man, you are thrown for a loop and you've got nothing to go, oh, well, that's okay because God's already put this in place, or that's okay. I know that this feels really wild and out of control, but I know that there's a God that I can trust. I know that there's a truth that I can stand on. I'm okay. I'm not comfortable. I'm not having fun, but I'm okay.
Right. And I think that's also the big thing to think about is that, this is not a fun experience.
No.
We're having moments where we get to laugh and tease and we're having, meeting some of our neighbors and stuff like that and get to laugh. But I mean, overall, going through the storm and everything else, that's not fun.
Yeah, no, this is not the experience anybody signs up for and goes, this is what I want to spend my vacation days on.
Yeah, right? I want my house and home to be in the spot where it could possibly be wiped out forever. That's not,
nobody's
we don't volunteer
signing up for that.
Yeah. But when you're prepared, when you have things set up in your life, just like we did for the storm, you get through these things. They're more bearable. Mm-hmm. And what I love about it, and this is for us, this is where we get joy, is that we get to help other folks. We get to help other people. When you're already prepared, you can go, okay, my stuff's taken care of, and now I can start looking away from myself. I can look at everyone else and start helping out where I can.
Yeah. And that's what we're meant to be as the body of Christ, right? We're meant to be the ones that go, okay, we are the light that's coming into a dark world. We've already, our wicks are trimmed. Yep. Our oil is flowing up into that wick beautifully. Our flames are lit. Now let's go do this thing. When other people are stumbling around in darkness, staggering around, cutting themselves on sharp things because they don't see that it's there, you can be the one that comes into the situation and goes, you know what? You're right. The situation is dark, but there is light to be had. Come, let me share mine.
Right.
Again, the physical is just always a manifestation of the spiritual.
Exactly.
The preparation that we make in our home for storms because we know the storms are gonna come is the same thing in life.
Yes.
Life's just not easy. Stuff happens, y'all.
Yeah, there is going to be storms in your life, period.
Yep.
And being prepared helps you, number one, get through it. But again, it also helps when other folks are going through their storms as well. Yeah. And that's one of the things I love with what we do with Trim the Wick. That's one of our heart things, is that we're bringing light into dark spaces. We are being able to walk into a place that, you normally wouldn't go because it is dark.
Right.
And you bring the light into it. Okay. So I want to talk a little bit here about the storm itself.
Okay.
So we knew that this one was going to be a doozy, and we had been looking at it and kind of getting prepared and stuff. And we didn't know if it was going to hit us north, south, or if we were just going to be directly in the middle of it.
There was a point, I've even got a picture of it. There was a point when the tracking forecast, and it was within 24 hours of landfall. So it was, things were kind of dialing in pretty tight. There was a point when our local news put up the track and zoomed in close to the the center line, and so all, how when they zoom in close to the map and all the cities show up, and literally on the center line of the map was our city's name.
Yeah.
The center line went right through our city, and we were like, oh, that's fun. That's really fun.
Yeah. Because even though we've been through a lot of these storms, we did have a storm go directly over us, but we weren't there. We had evacuated because we were living on the coast at that time. But this one, we thought for sure it was going to come right over us. Mm-hmm. And so we were prepared for it, and it went a little south of us, which meant we got the ugly. We actually got the ugly of the storm.
Yeah, again, the weirdness of this storm.
Yeah.
That top side of the storm was pretty intense.
Yeah. And we explained to people that, because like I said, we've been through a couple of them. They're like, you just lay in bed or you're sitting there and everything was off. We lost power and everything's off and you're just listening. Mm-hmm. And you're listening to the whistling and the howling of what's going on around you and everything else. But what I think is interesting is listening to all the sounds of this cracking and creaking and something over there spinning and we could hear our neighbors. They have a shed that the roof ripped off on it, but we could hear it all night long, that that creeping sound. And
yeah, because it wasn't like, if you've ever watched hurricane footage, a lot of times you'll have pieces of metal that just are ripped off all in one fell swoop and they go flying.
Right.
That is not what this shed roof did. It peeled back on itself. It was like, one of those old fashioned can openers that,
and we could hear it.
That it peels back a little bit and then a little bit more.
And so we were hearing that, and then every once in a while you would hear a different sound. So that you would lay in bed and you were like, okay, I know what that sound is doing. I know what that sound is. Now, okay, what's that sound? And you just lay in bed, and it's fun how your mind kind of goes, and you're putting together everything on your back porch, everything in your backyard, and you're going, what would make that sound if it was slamming against something else? And so you're just laying there. But what I love about it, and this is the thing, is that you become so in tune to listening.
Yeah, you do.
And in the storm, because we had no power, so lights were off. Mm-hmm. Nobody was moving around because lights was off and it was just
what are you going to do? We all just went to bed.
Yeah, so we're laying in bed and you're just laying there, but you're awake.
Right.
Obviously you're, if you can sleep, power to you. But you're just laying there and you're so in tune to everything you hear.
Yeah.
And putting a parallel to that with sometimes in our own life, when we're going through the trials and a storm in our own lives, it's not that God stops talking.
No.
It's that it gets so loud we stop listening, or we get involved, or we're thinking we got to fix it. In this situation where we were able just to lay there and just be quiet, we could be in tune with everything we were hearing.
Yeah. Well, that's what's interesting about that is up to that point, we had the newscast running in the background.
Right.
We were very focused on what they were telling us about what was happening instead of listening to what was actually happening right where we are.
Right.
And I think we do that a lot. It gets loud. You listen to what other people are telling you about what's happening. You listen to what other people are telling you about what you should be doing, what other people are saying about this, that, and the other. And it's not that advisors are not a good thing. And it's not that, having outside input is bad, but there is a difference. There is absolutely a difference between watching the newscasters, watching them explain the wind currents, oh my goodness, you guys, the tornado warnings were off the charts.
Yeah.
We had 126 tornado warnings with this storm. And a lot of them were over either ourselves, our kids, or our parents.
Yeah.
And so we're watching all of them. So, I mean, you're watching all of that, and you've got all of that input, and you can see it, and you can understand it, but you can't do anything about it.
Right.
And so you're just praying. But when the power went out and all of that input went away, the only thing you could do, you didn't know. You didn't know what was happening except for what was right where you were.
Right.
You were in a place where you had to listen to what God was saying to you right where you were, and you had to trust him with what he was doing in those places that now you couldn't know anything about. And there is actually a freedom in that.
Yeah.
It releases you from anxiety, because when you come to the understanding that I can only know what I am directly involved in, I can only hear where I directly am, and anything outside of that realm is God's purview, what it does is it forces you to come into alignment with a truth that already existed.
Yep.
You just weren't agreeing with it.
Right. That is so freeing.
Yeah.
And liberating. And it's actually encouraging, because we can tap into what God has for us.
Right.
If we just silence the noise. And God's speaking to us
all the time.
He doesn't stop speaking. He doesn't stop guiding us. He doesn't stop directing us. We kind of turn away from him and start listening to the world around us. And we turn away and start listening to the noise.
Mm-hmm. And getting involved, thinking that we can alter or control something that's so far out of our realm that it's not even funny, but it's firmly within his control and care.
Yep. And even in the midst of a storm, and let me tell you,
it was a storm.
This was a good one. We started getting the heavy winds. I want to say it was about 7, 8 o'clock at night.
Yep.
And it did not stop until about 4 a.m.
Yep.
Which is a long time.
Yeah, it's the longest time we've ever been in consistent wind and rain like that for that length of time. Usually, even if you're getting an eye wall and if you're right in the dead center of a storm, usually it hits you, it passes through. Mm-hmm. And then you're on the other side of it.
Right.
This thing just kept coming and kept coming and kept coming.
Yeah, it was surprising how long the storm was. And some of you are going through that storm. Some of you, who are listening, this is, we're talking about a hurricane, but you've got a hurricane in your life. And I want to just, kind of sidestep on this and go, encourage you. Even in the midst of the storm, he's still talking to you.
Yeah.
And even in the midst of the storm, be quiet, listen to what God has, because God will direct you. And, it was about 2:30 in the morning when I finally drifted off for a couple hours, fell asleep for a little bit and woke up and the storm was still raging. But listen to what he has for you.
And understand that, he is speaking to you in the middle of your storm. And some of those noises are probably going to sound scary.
Yep.
Some of the things that he tells you, some of the things that he shows you about what's happening around you, it may feel very, very scary. It may not be things you want to hear in the middle of the storm. There were things that we heard as Milton was passing through in the dark and in the middle of the night that we did not want to hear. We did not want to hear the neighbor's roof coming off. We did not want to hear the tree that fell.
Yeah.
We definitely did not want to hear our backsliding glass door breathing with every gust of wind. That it was not a fun sound.
No.
Sometimes the things that God tells us and speaks to us in the middle of our storms are not fun things, but they are information that he's sharing with us that we need.
Yep.
They are directions that he's sharing with us that are for our good. And some of the things that he allows to be pulled away from us through those storms are things that help to actually prepare us and set us up for the next steps in our lives.
Yep. Well, and you also realize what's the important things and what's not. You guys, this is one of those things that we just feel like we've learned by listening through the storms and knowing that the storms of life are going to come, and wanted to encourage you with that. I know it's going to be a little shorter one this week, but we wanted to still reach out and kind of encourage you.
Yeah. Please do be encouraged, because just like Floridians know that hurricanes are going to happen, if you are alive and breathing, storms are going to come into your life.
That's right.
So live life in a state of preparation.
Yep.
Build that relationship with God. If it's not there yet, keep working on it. Keep listening. And when the storm starts to rage, turn off the newscast.
Yep.
and just really listen.
Yeah.
What he's telling you, because he's got something for you in the storm, I promise.
Yep. Afterwards, when the dust settles, one of the things that we've loved is that we have no power. Nobody in our community has power. So everybody's outside.
Yeah.
Everybody's walking around and we're meeting our neighbors again, or, meeting new neighbors and stuff. And it is encouraging to be around other people that will encourage you, that will help you. And again, this is another thing just translates in life. When you're going through something, that having a person that's going to encourage you, not tear you down, not point out all the negatives,
right?
But are actually going to be, you know what? It's a beautiful day today. The storm's gone and the sun's out and we've got 1,000 limbs to clean up, but thank God we're here,
and many hands make light work.
That's right. And we all just jump in and get to work. It is one of those things it's a shame it takes a storm to open our eyes that we need other people and we need encouragement, but know that it's out there and it's there for you. Just like it's been for us this last 2 days.
Right.
And we've had a great time meeting some new people and being encouraged. We're going to close it up. And like I said, it's going to be a little shorter one than normal, but we just wanted to touch base, encourage you guys.
So before the batteries run completely out.
Yep. Before we're down to zero, we're going to say goodbye. So we'll be back with you next week. But for now, I guess we'll say goodbye and we'll see you guys next time.
Okay. Love you. Bye.
Love you. Bye.